Celebrity makeup artist Mary Phillips has just launched her own makeup brand in Sephora. And do you know what her signature product is? If you know Mary Phillips, you'll know. It's her underpainting palette. Does that not look very similar to what we have been talking about on this channel? And I love this. I am so excited. So I'm going to use this opportunity today to talk to you guys a little bit about how you can emulate the Mary Phillips highlight and contour underpainting method with your Seint makeup. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, let's jump in. Now, Mary Phillips is a celebrity makeup artist for folks like J.Lo. Have you ever been on any of J.Lo's socials? She talks about highlight and contour and underpainting and gives tips and tricks all the time. She's such a doll on her social media. But in addition to J.Lo, she works with the Kardashians in particular. She also works with Kylie Jenner. And what I love about this launch is that we have been emulating this very same process, but in a customizable manner. Seint's been doing it for 8 years. We've been doing it on this channel for 3, right? So our founder, Kara, had the opportunity to take these palettes into the mainstream market, into the stores, and she decided not to because it's not that intuitive. This is like a deconstructed makeup bag, right? You have a bronzer, you have a contour, you have a foundation, you have a brightener, you have a concealer, but when you look at it, it doesn't feel the same as like looking at those products individually, right? Or the concept of putting this on in one layer seems crazy when you're used to put on your foundation, then put on your contour. Like when you're used to putting things on top, on top, on top, on top, knowing that you can do it all in very few layers, which is magic for mature skin. You can do it all with the same formulation, meaning these are all creams, so they're all gonna play nice together. And you can have an artist customize it to you. Now, I think that the Mary Phillips underpainting palette is gonna do really well for the consumer who likes to play with makeup, somebody who already understands underpainting, or people that understand color. But the issue with it is, and she may very well expand, it only has 3 shades. You have a light, a medium, and a dark. So you have to be able to work kind of within the colors that already exist, where this is customized to you. And I wanted to show you, it is refillable. These tins are $16 and magnetized, so they refill right in here. You don't need to buy an entire new palette just to get a fresh color or a fresh shade, because the reality is you're not going to use these all at the same amounts. They're not meant to be worn. You know, you're not gonna wear your foundation shade as much as you would wear your bronzer shade. Now, when you look at Mary Phillips' palette, she has 2 contours, 2 highlights, and a color corrector. Essentially, when I look at this, and I've watched a ton of her videos over the years, she's somebody that I really enjoy, and I specifically watched her videos as to how she's applying this palette in particular, and she is calling the cool and the warm contours, but she's applying them as if one is a contour which shapes the face and one is a bronzer. So we're gonna do the same thing here because that's the way that we've been applying our Seint makeup all this time. Now, next she has 2 highlights. She's using her highlights particularly to shape the face and add brightness. So we like to contour on the perimeter to create natural shadows and to lift the face, particularly as we age. And then we brighten in the center to draw out the light. Anything that's light comes forward, anything that's dark recedes. So she's using both of her highlights in there to create that brightening effect. And then what she does is she takes a foundation of choice, sheer to medium build, because with their creams, both Seint and hers, the coverage level that they provide most easily is sheer to buildable up to medium coverage. But when you're applying a foundation over top of all of that, you can be a little bit more heavy-handed. You can be a little bit less precise because you're gonna have a tool to blend that with. So she doesn't have a foundation in her palette. So you're gonna choose, whatever choice foundation, whether that's cream, whether that's liquid, whether that's a skin tint, one that you know matches your skin type. The cool thing about this palette is while we call both of these highlights, one is meant to brighten, as is Mary's, one is meant to serve in replace of your foundation shade. So there is literally no guesswork in any of this, and your foundation shade formula is going to work with everything else that you have. So that's really cool. And then lastly, she has a color corrector. We have a color corrector, and that is for taking away darkness, redness, whatever form of discoloration you might have on the face. So I'm going to apply my Seint makeup in the exact same way that you see Mary applying hers. So if you're somebody who's interested in the Mary Phillips palette, you'll have a better idea of how to use it. This is generally a step-by-step tutorial for underpainting as well. And this will give you an idea of how you can wear your Seint makeup in few layers to create a beautifully sculpted face that still looks incredibly natural. I'm gonna start with my contour, and this is going to be a cooler shade. For me, this is Astoria. So I'm taking the side of my brush, and what I'm doing is I am hugging that cheekbone. So I'm going to the top of my ear, the outer corner of the eye, and I am just going to stamp this on the cheekbone to now start to create some lift. And because these are buildable, you can do this really lightly, or you can go for something a little bit more glam. If you want a little bit more definition, pop a little bit closer to the ear, have a little bit more depth, and then stop here at the outer corner of the eye, and now we've sculpted our cheekbone. And it doesn't matter if it looks a little bit crazy. This is a trust the process sort of deal here. Because remember, we are gonna put our cream foundation over top to make sure that we blur any of these edges. So we're gonna use that to fill in the gaps. And that way you don't have to worry about being super precise. So for somebody who's nervous about contouring, right now I'm going around the forehead. I have a large forehead, okay? So I like to refer to it as my 5 head. So what do? Not only am I gonna contour around the perimeter, because remember, shadow recedes, but I'm also gonna fill in this gap here to try and create more light here and darkness out here. Now, when I put my hair down, some of that will be gone as well, but you will see I also have some thinning spots here. So I'm just gonna kind of pop that contour into that area. And like I said, it's a trust the process sort of deal. So we've gone on the cheekbone, avoid the hollow, okay? We're not going down here. We're going up here onto that cheekbone, especially as we age. Now, if you're doing something dramatic and you really want to sculpt the face with more of a precise, sharp edge, you could certainly pull this down a little bit, but we're talking about the average girly, not our Kylie Jenners, right? Now let's do a little bit under the chin. We are just creating some definition to this line. If you have a little bit of jowling in this area, you can go a little bit here on the top, and then we will blend that with our highlight color. So there we go. Now I'm gonna take the sharp edge of the brush, and we're going to do a little bit of stamping our nose contour, creating 2 thin lines, and bringing them into the brows. You can also grab a smaller brush if you want to be more precise. I'm gonna go underneath here, a little bit across the top, and all we're doing is kind of creating an exclamation point and sculpting out that nose a little bit. So now we've got our cheekbone, our forehead, underneath the jawline, the nose, and you can certainly go in underneath the lip to create more definition, to pop out your lip, and in that V here right on the top. Because if darkness recedes, then our lips are gonna pop forward. I've gone ahead and finished this side of my face. Now I'm actually gonna take a little bit of that smaller end of the brush and start to also contour out the eye by just going into the crease and a little bit above, because I have a hooded eye, up onto the base of that hood to start to create some definition around the eye. I'm doing a little bit here on the outer corner as well. This is gonna serve almost like my eyeliner underneath the eye. Now we're gonna go into our color corrector. The other thing about Seint makeup that's really cool, and where I think it's gonna have an advantage to something like the Mary Phillips line, is not all color correctors solve the same issue. So anything that's pre-made, you get what you get, right? And for some people, that's gonna be great. Like I think the medium one that I've been showing you, the medium palette, I could use most of that in there pretty routinely, but not all of it. So I'd rather have something customized than something that I'm going to have to use the majority of the products, but maybe not all. So as somebody who has multiple discolorations on their face, my eyes are dark underneath, but my cheeks are red and have hyperpigmentation on them. I have a scar on my nose. When I had hormonal acne, I had quite a bit of deep scarring on the face. So even then, I could grab 2 color correctors if I wanted to. I'm gonna tone down, my chin's looking a little red here. So we start with our contour, we've sculpted the face, we've now used our color corrector to tone down any discoloration that we have. And again, we're following the traditional underpainting method. So we are now going to go into that highlight that is lighter, and we're gonna start to clean things up a little bit. So you see how you're like nervous about contour until you realize that these creams are so forgiving. So look at that. Here, we look a little dirty. We look like we're sagging a little bit. Our line is uneven. Now, we've snatched it right up. And you can do that with anything. That's what's really cool about these cream palettes. Like, okay, see, I went a little too high there. So we're just gonna flip that over and contour right back where we were. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna clean up that line. We also are going to brighten this kind of like a tree, like a palm tree. We're gonna take that brightener right down the nose. And again, we're starting to look crazy, but you gotta trust the process. Now I'm gonna take my brightener, and this is essentially going to help brighten my under eye. I'm going to avoid, due to age, the area directly underneath the eye, and now I'm gonna hug that top line of my contour. If it blends, it extends. This is gonna blend. Cream is going to blend. That is part of the luxury of it. It doesn't dry down super fast. You don't have to work super fast. You can come back later and add to your makeup by just kind of like re-moistening your makeup, because it's not something that's like a double wear foundation. So I've kept that brightener out from underneath this bag, and as I start to blend everything together, then it will work its way up where it needs to go without an excess of product. Let's do a little bit here and a little bit here. So now we are fully striped up and ready to go. Now in Mary's palette, she has 2 highlights, more for your preference, or maybe you have different areas that you want to highlight a little bit brighter. You could certainly add, you guys, these are completely customizable. You could add 3 different brightening shades. One that has a pink undertone, one that has a super light and bright under eye effect, and one that's a little bit more subtle. It's literally dealer's choice. I am gonna move into my main highlight, as it's referred to with Seint, and that is essentially the replacement for your foundation. And we are going to start bridging the gap. So now I'm just going to apply this essentially anywhere that I don't have anything else. So I'm going on the lines of that contour. I'm going in this gap here, down on the jawline, right here, either side of the mouth and the nose. Now, if you want to make this super easy, just put it all over, press it on top. I'm going to show you that here in a second. But this method right here is for those of you that want to wear the least amount of makeup and get a sheer coverage. That's what this is for. If you're somebody who is looking for it to be even more user-friendly and you want to diffuse those lines, all you need to do is press this main highlight shade all over the face. And now you will have a beautiful, soft highlight and contour effect. It has diffused so beautiful. Look how natural that looks. It's just so gorgeous. This is why understanding how to use this product, now we're blending in our tree, is so worth it, because this is your entire makeup bag. You could also put your foundation on first and do this on top like you're traditionally used to. It's up to you. But the beauty of this underpainting method is that you typically use less makeup. You've now created dimension on your face that looks natural, but look at the radiance and the glow that you get on your skin from having it be a cream product. What I like to do at this point is take a damp beauty blender and make sure that everything is diffused together and I don't have any excess product before I'm gonna move into what I would color match you to, which would be a bronzer. In Mary Phillips' palette, she calls it contour, warm contour. If you want to totally maximize these underpainting palettes, after you contour the eye, go ahead and take a little bit of that highlight color and wash it onto the lid. Now you have a lighter lid, you've created some contrast, and then you could go into your bronzer and really warm that up a little bit so it's not as harsh. Add a little bit of depth to the outer corner of the eye. I would set that down with some powder if you're someone like me who has a lot of creasing or a hooded eye, just to make sure that everything lasts. And now you have a supernatural eye look to match the sculpted but very natural look on the face. Now I'm gonna go ahead and grab a different brush for bronzer. And I'm just going to add a little bit to the places that I would naturally get sunburn. This will also, a reason not to be afraid of bronzer is this will also help diffuse that line and everything just starts to blend together so seamlessly. Nothing looks harsh, yet it looks natural. You're like the natural J-Lo. That's what this palette can do for you. Are you excited? I know. Now, before we move into finishing the look, which another thing that's really cool about how Seint does their products is you have endless options here. So with Mary's line, she's selling a blush separately, but we have a powder, a blush, an illuminator. You can put eyeshadows in here, so everything can be done out of one palette. But before we do that, let's just take a quick look and see, is there anything else that we want to add brightness to? Do we want to sculpt? You know, if you wanted to create more definition, just because you're underpainting doesn't mean that you can't come in on top and, you know, chisel out the cheekbone a little bit more. You can do whatever you want because your entire makeup bag is right here and it all plays together. It's not like you just put a powder onto the face and now you wouldn't want to go back in with a cream because you don't want it to look, cakey. So let's finish this off very simply by adding a little bit of blush. And I'm just gonna do something that looks natural but has a little pop of pink. I will put the link for you guys to check out Mary's new palette from Sephora in the description box below. I'll also put the Seint link so you can check out their site, my color matching link. So if you would like to learn more about like creating your own customized palette and how that would be customized to your skin, because I will do that for you. Like in addition to the palette being customizable, you don't have to guess. We do have an online quiz that you're welcome to use, and that will rely more heavily on your ability to make decisions about, you're gonna look at faces and say, does this match my skin tone? If you're somebody who feels comfortable doing that, or you don't wanna send me a makeup-free selfie, you can go online and match yourself, no big deal. But my service is free, and there is a bit of a method to my madness. Like, there is a method to the colors that I choose to get you the look that you are desiring. So anyways, let's tap a little bit here on the lips. I'm gonna mix this with our balm. You can also get a balm, eyebrow wax, so many really good options. I'm gonna come in and just re-contour that bottom. And the top, I'm gonna take Sunshine State, which is a lip and cheek, but works beautifully in the same way an illuminator would, to pop out the center of the lip and a little bit down the nose. And on the highest points here of the face, we'll go ahead and make sure that's blended. You see just that additional little bit of glow. It's a preference. And now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my Vanilla Dust setting powder, grabbing a beauty blender. If you have too much on there, back of the hand, and let's set Remember, these are not self-setting. They are very blendable. So we want to set at the end in areas that we're prone to creasing, anywhere that you'd want to mattify or reduce a little bit of the glow. I'm prone to creasing in areas like around my mouth. You could set your whole face if you want to reduce some of that glow. I'll do a little bit here on the jawline, but I want to keep the glow here. Again, T-zone and under the eye, and I'm gonna go ahead and set my actual lid because I put creams on there and I don't want them to start creasing throughout the day. So there you have it. Do you have questions about underpainting? Thoughts? Was this helpful to you? Let me know. You can put questions below. Comments are welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. And maybe consider subscribing. We're here every week. We're having lots of fun and we would love to have you. So that is it for this week. I hope you guys are enjoying the end of summer, beginning of fall transition, and we will see you again soon. Bye guys.